Now today marking the 150th anniversary of the birth of Charlotte Maxeke, who was born on this day in 1871. Now in 1901, Maxeke was the first black woman to earn a Bachelor of Science degree when she graduated from an American university. She's also recognized as the only woman present at the formation of the ANC in 1912 and the first to insist on the inclusion of women in church and political gatherings. Now today, the ANC is celebrating her as a giant in the fight against patriarchy and oppression. The details of her extraordinary life, recorded in a book authored by award-winning journalist and author and activist Zubeida Jaffer, the book entitled Beauty of the Heart, The Life and Times of Charlotte Mannya Maxeke. Zubeida Jaffer joins us now via our video link. A very good morning to you, Zubeida. It's great to have you with us here on the channel. I mean, if we think about the history, the extraordinary life of Charlotte Maxeke, it's still incredible to think that so much of her life was such a blurry memory before people like yourself authored that extraordinary book.
Michelle, good morning. Wonderful to be with you. It has been shocking for me. I worked on the book for 3 years, and I was so amazed to think that there was this woman who, as a young girl already, had set out with the idea that she was going to educate herself. And this is quite extraordinary. It's in the last century. And she then set about it, and through a number of circumstances actually achieved her goals, not only graduating in 1901 with a BSc degree, but also coming back and setting up schools and getting the education train going. It is a truly remarkable story of perseverance.
And in your research, Zubeida, about Charlotte Maxeke, I'm sure you looked at other people in her life, other key figures in her life as well. Where do you think this drive came from in terms of the influences she had in her life?
Well, she was fortunate in a sense that her mom was, a teacher, not a trained teacher, but yeah. she was literate, and so that had come through the church, so that was an advantage. And then she had parents, and especially a dad, who was extremely supportive and was there for her. And it's often the case where, it's not material support that you need. It's the loving family that is often the most crucial element in the progress of the child.
Yeah, yeah. I want to just trace some of her life story. So she returns from the US with a BSc degree. That's in 1901. It's incredible to think of now. But then she gets stuck in the Cape as the Anglo-Boer War unfolds. In fact, during that time, as she's stuck in the Cape, her mom passes away before she's able to make that trip back home.
Yes, very difficult moment for her. She comes home, she's lost her mother, she is trying to get back to her father's village in Amagopa in the north, where she has decided she's going to teach the herd boys and, bring literacy to the village. And so, but then of course we have the period of intense white-on-white violence, now known as the Anglo-Boer War, and she's stuck at the Cape.
Yeah.
And, so she then has to wait before she travels back home.
And how does she make that transition into an involvement in politics and pushing for the inclusion of women in the political formations of the day?
There's a moment on her way to Amagopa village. She stops over in Queenstown at Lessiton, at the Lessiton mission station, where there's a national convention, and the early national convention in 1902, which was the forerunner of the 1912 ANC convention. And she actually puts it on the table and says, look, I've come and I want to participate. And the men there decide that they're going to set up a committee to discuss this.
Yeah.
And they set up a committee and they come to the conclusion that women can't participate in in this meeting. And so she gets excluded, but journalist Sarplaki goes on record, and I was able to find these texts that, attacks this, this attitude. And together one sees that they take a very, very progressive position and say that women should be allowed to be part. They should be part of everything, and there should be no discrimination on the basis of sex and color. And this was in 1902.
Sure. I mean, it's incredible to think of. In your research, Zubeida, how did you get access to this kind of information about how her journey unfolded in the early 1900s?
It was quite a nightmare because, there was nobody that I could interview that was still alive. I only found one woman who was 106 years old, and I tell the story in the book. But there was nobody else I could double check with. So a lot of the work that I had to do was to comb through the newspapers of that time and the church records. And with the assistance of an amazing group of students, mainly from the University of the Free State, I was able to find these gems in various publications. And very significantly, which shocked me as I went along, was to find written speeches, which I now have on my website, written speeches of that she had delivered. And I mean, imagine at that time, I mean, I often don't even put what I say on into writing. She had written speeches even when she was visited London in the 1800s. She's on record. Talks are on record. Wow. Which I don't understand actually fully how that is possible.
Yeah, I mean it's really, really incredible to think. And Zubeida, in terms of the amount of time and dedication that you've put into writing this book, Beauty of the Heart, the life story of Charlotte Maxeke, today the governing party is leading commemorations around what would have been her 150th birthday today. In terms of what you know about her, in terms of the research you've done about what she tried to do with her life and with her work, how do you reckon we're faring today in terms of, number one, keeping her story and her memory alive, her and many, many others, and secondly, how the governing party is doing in terms of themselves, keeping the lives of such giants in their own history alive as well?
There's a huge effort at the moment, Michelle, and rightly so, because we as South Africans, we know about Jan van Riebeeck, who was here for 8 years, who only was in South Africa for 8 years. And it's shocking that every child in South Africa grows up with, him on their lips. And the time has come that we have to change the narrative. We have to understand that we stretch back from way before 1652, and we've got to decide where to start. And I think that work, and I myself, through what I'm doing, am very committed to that work, because I feel that we have to have a new national narrative that shows us all these gems, the genuine gems, not the constructed gems, the genuine gems that we have in our, social fabric, and bring our children up with those, real gems, inspire them, and have their texts and their stories in our schools. And at every level of every standard should have, every grade should have some story, because we truly are a blessed nation. I've really come to that conclusion after my work, especially with my work on the Charlotte book, because it gave me such an insight into the young people, especially around the Kimberley area, who had foresight,
yeah,
and who made tremendous strides in trying to push the education train and the country forward.
yeah.
It was the young people. Charlotte was young when she did a lot of this work. I'm not saying she didn't do it through a lot, but she did it. And now through this, just her story, for example, I think credit must go to the family, through the Charlotte Maxeke Institute, for pushing forward and getting the government and the ANC on board, and now for the ANC to have finally, embraced the story so fully. It is truly a remarkable moment.
And it's incredible to see your passion for the story as well. But you're absolutely right. We've got so many incredible people in our country's history. And these are the kinds of stories we need to tell our children. These are the kinds of anecdotes that we need to tell our children about our own country's history. In fact, Zubeida, you're going to be part, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but you'll be part of, it's a webinar, I believe, that's taking place a little later on tomorrow, 6 p.m. tomorrow, where you'll talk about the significance of Charlotte Mannya Maxeke. Tell us more about that.
Yes, we have a panel discussion organized by Number 10 Publishers in partnership with The Forge in Braamfontein. It's at 6 o'clock tomorrow, and it is going to take a closer look at her life with various speakers, and we really encourage everybody to listen in. The links will be available through Number 10 Publishers, and, my social media networks at Zubeida Jaffer. You can find all the information that you need.
Zubeida, it's been such a great pleasure talking to you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Zubeida Jaffer is an author and journalist. Pick up the book. It's a 2016 publication, and it's entitled The Beauty of the Heart, The Life and Times of Charlotte Mannya Maxeke. And of course, it's all part of our commemorations today, what would have been her 150th birthday.